Hey. Hey everyone, Jeremy Peterson here with Vesta Real Estate in Ogden, Utah. And today I wanted to talk to a special segment of the housing market, and that is the first-time home buyers, or perhaps even parents of first-time home buyers who are out there trying to find a way to stake their claim in real estate and trying to fight the math and fight the market in getting this done. So we all know it's a difficult market out there relative to times past. When I first got into the market 20 plus years ago, it was a time when they asked you to fog a mirror and they checked your pulse, and then they gave you a loan and sent you out there to buy real estate. And obviously we know how that turned out for the market in general, very poorly, which that sort of mushroomed into the great financial crisis. And and that's the sound of freedom. So obviously, giving away loans like candy was bad, and that turned into the great financial crisis. In 2012, though, the correction that occurred in the housing market made it so that owning real estate was a lot cheaper than renting. And that was the same as it was back in 2004, before the big run-up back then. And so today's market for first-time home buyers is totally different. It is more expensive to own a piece of real estate than it is to rent it. And it's been that way for quite some time. I think ever since 2016-17, the thumb screws have been coming down on first-time home buyers. But like any great thing in life, I've learned that great achievements are brought about by great sacrifice. And it's relative to everything: your education, marriage, having children, certainly, stepping up in our career, advancing ourselves in our careers. And we're going to add home ownership now to one of those things that used to seem so simple and now is a great achievement and requires great sacrifice. So what kind of sacrifice are we talking about here? To help us understand more about what that looks like, I'm going to use an example of a property that I sold recently. This is one, you might have seen a video about this already, but we're just going to use it as a case study on the numbers and talk about the math and walk through what that looks like. So this home, this one was located at 20th and Jackson, was a fixer-upper. It was a rental property, and we sold it for $225,000. That's really affordable in this market, like extreme affordability in this market. And so let's talk about if you... Oh, another one. Okay, 4 jets in the morning. That's quite a quite a trip. Let's get back to our example here. So let's say that you're a young person, young family in the market for housing, and you come across this house. You've got a couple options. One is you can rent it for $1,200 a month. You can put a $1,200 deposit down, live in it for a year, hope the landlord wants to renew with you a year later. The rents will probably increase at that time, and you'll do that again for another year. Your second option would be to look at buying the home, and you'd buy it for $225,000, and you'd have a mortgage payment of approximately $1,725. That's principal, interest, taxes, and insurance out the door. You would be required, if you brought in 5% down, you'd be looking at around $10,000 in a down payment. And so you'd need to have that cash to get into the home, and let's assume that the seller pays for your closing costs, so you don't have to pay for those as well, which might be an additional $7,000 otherwise. So you're $10,000 out of pocket, and then you've got a mortgage payment that is about $525 more than renting the home. So what do you get out of these two scenarios? Why would you choose renting, or why would you choose owning or purchasing? What are the benefits or advantages here? Well, if you're going to rent, obviously you get to save some money, right? I mean, that $525 is some pretty big savings, and you could use that money to do other things, assuming you had it to spend. You could buy a car with it. You could buy a lot of clothes. It's a lot of food. You could invest it and put it in an investment. Just sock away $525 a month into, the stock market or some other investment vehicle. For our scenario here, let's say we extrapolated this out 10 years, and let's say that you invested your $525 a month over a 10-year period, and let's say that your investment maybe kept up with inflation, maybe did a little better. You would have over a course of 10 years about $65,000, maybe $70,000 in your investment over that time. And that's if you rented at a cheaper rate and took the difference between owning that home and renting it and socked it away in an investment. That would be your takeaway from wise financial stewardship. Now, that would require extreme discipline. You'd have to do it every month and find an investment vehicle that made a return on investment that justified that investment. So in owning your home, you're obviously going to pay a lot more for that house. But over the course of 10 years, if the home keeps up just with inflation at like 3%, you would be looking at about $75,000 in appreciation on the house. Also, your mortgage would go down through amortization about another $35,000. And for those of you using your calculators and checking on this, these are rounded figures for conversation's sake. But that $35,000 is equity in your home, and the appreciation in your home is equity. So the equity being the difference between the value of the property and what you owe on it to a mortgage lender or another party. So that equity is wealth creation, and that stays with you. Also, in this 10-year period of time, and we're assuming like a 7% interest rate on this mortgage, you would have about $150,000 in interest that you would have paid over that time that is tax deductible under current tax law. And so you would have benefited from the tax advantages of paying interest on that mortgage, plus you'd have equity in that mortgage and on that home. So obviously the challenge here is that let's say that you qualify for the mortgage, right? Your $1,700 payment a month. Let's multiply that by 3. So that comes out to be about $5,200 a month. That's where you want to be income-wise on your household in order to be comfortable, right? You don't want to put yourself in a financial bind or be house poor or not have enough room to absorb some kind of shock, like an illness or something else that might, things that come up in life. So, the 3 times rule is pretty healthy. If you can keep your debt, your house payment to 1/3 of your income, you're doing pretty well. And that's what we require with our rental properties. To qualify for a rental, you got to make 3 times the income. So let's assume that you're making $5,200 a month. Well, if you make that amount of money, you can actually afford a rental at $1,700 a month versus making a house payment at $1,700 a month. The difference being, of course, is that the home you rent is going to be much nicer than the home you buy at $1,700 a month. And this is the standard of living gap that exists, which really is this really is the sacrifice to overcome in order to build wealth in real estate. So one of the things I'm also encouraging Gen Zers and young people who are looking at home ownership is not to just look at buying a home and looking at it as their standard of living and as a status symbol of how well they're doing in life, but look at it as a stepping stone to something better tomorrow. Today, right now, if we just look at things right now, what's going to make us happiest right now, it's probably not going to make us the happiest in the long run. And so that's why sacrifice is so important when looking down the road. And this is especially true if you are looking to become a landlord later and build serious wealth. Look at buying a duplex or a fourplex, triplex, something in that range where you can get FHA or VA financing and get your 3.5% down payment rather than having to pay 20% down. Obviously, the cash flow is not going to be fantastic, but you have helpers making the mortgage payment for you. And since that piece of real estate is worth a lot more money at the get-go, that help from rent to pay your mortgage is just going to build your wealth that much faster and help you either build up a down payment for the home that you want or create a long-lasting stream of income that benefits you in your retirement down the road. Right now, ownership rates are low, especially here in Ogden City. Right now, the East Central Bench neighborhood just east of downtown is where I live. Years prior, the ownership rates here were about 50%. There are a lot of rentals here, and there have been historically. But in recent times, that number has dropped to 38%. And yet, the neighborhood has improved in curb appeal, improved in the aesthetic and peace in the neighborhoods. The neighborhoods have improved overall, even as ownership rates have declined. And it's because so much capital has been put into these neighborhoods as landlords have come in and fixed up these properties to make them into nice rentals. It would be great to have more homeowners here in this neighborhood, and there is a lot for sale in the neighborhood. Historically speaking, we have a lot of inventory that's available, and there's quite a bit of inventory available under $350,000, even under $300,000 right now. So if you are a home buyer, if you're a first-time home buyer, or if you're the parent of a first-time home buyer, let's talk about what kind of sacrifice it would take to get you into your first home, to get you on a launching pad into your next home, and to get you creating wealth that will last you into retirement and bless your life moving forward. Give me a call. You can reach me at 801-390-1480. Thanks for tuning in.